Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to Conversations in Pop Culture. I have with me President Gator from Primetime Pro Wrestling, and I am super excited to have you on. So, how are you?
I'm hanging in. I am house sitting right now in an undisclosed location in the woods of Virginia. So I am self quarantining and trying to play it safe.
Yeah, we live in interesting times, and the entire wrestling world has been very much thrown upside down and then sideways. And one of the reasons why I wanted to have you on is that I want to talk about primetime because primetime pro wrestling has very much been thrown that way as well. You guys just got on IWTV with Butch vs. Gore, and I think people want to know, how did primetime formulate, because you guys are relatively new to the scene.
Absolutely. So yeah, it all started about a year ago, little less than a year ago. Um, there was a need in the DMV, what we call the Capital Region, the District of Columbia, Virginia, and Maryland, for a wrestling promotion that could run on a regular basis. And Lolo McGrath, who is my fellow co-founder and handles our marketing and our branding, and they do an incredible job. Um, they had been involved with a promotion that I had been involved in, and so we had a connection, and they really wanted to run in DC. Now, for people who don't follow me on Twitter and don't see my constant issues dealing with things going on in DC, independent wrestling in the district had so many barriers to entry that it was impossible to get in. You would have the big companies would come in a couple times a year, but that was it because they didn't care. They could have 20 people working on blood work and everything that was required. So some of the more proactive people involved in the commission and commission staff have worked very diligently. We working with Fight, which is another independent promotion that has run in DC, have worked really hard to lower those barriers to entry. So it started with Lolo and I coming together and wanting to run in DC, working with the commission, particularly Andrew Huff, who is on the Combat Sports Commission and the commission staff, to be able to run on a regular basis inside the District of Columbia. It was Lolo's connection to DC Brow that opened up that avenue. It was Lolo's connection to DC9 and the bar world that opened up the avenue to have sponsors and to let us have the kind of show we think the fans of the region deserve. And then we were off to the races. And yes, as you mentioned, March 7, which seems like 25 years ago,
Yeah, it
was
seems
our.
like a long time ago.
It really was. It was like the first day or the last day of sanity that we've had before everything has gone out of our control. That was our first live streamed show on IWTV. And IWTV, why we thought it was important, why we thought we needed to get this particular show out in front of a live crowd. And I fought really hard for that, and I was very proud that we were able to get that show in particular on the live stream, and the hope that we will have more shows on the live stream. I mean, we are very new. When you look at some of the other companies, we've been around for only a year, and because of what's been going on, we have only run 6 shows. So, we're not going to compare ourselves with the larger independent companies because it's not a fair comparison. But we're very proud of what we're doing, and IWTV has been a great supporter of ours. So the hope is when we do get back to whatever the new normal is, that we will have more live streams and more opportunities because we have an incredible roster and an incredible product that we're proud of.
And to talk about that in particular, because the 6 shows that have been run have been amazing, where you had Brex Brex Keller, I want to say, as your champ. I think I'm right on that. And then O'Shea Edwards has been your
Okay.
champ. And then you had steel cage matches. You had an Ultimate X type match as well. And you gathered talent from all over. You had Solo Darling, Willow Nightingale is in your promotion. Apricots, Still Life with Apricots and Pears is there. along with Blank, and I could keep naming. Il O'Neill is another big name that people are getting to know in this area, and he's a local. So, what is this like to have these types of matches that, in many ways, big companies and big promotions do have there, and being so new in that?
We want to give the fans that possible, and that's going to take the best talent possible. So, of course, we're going to listen to the fans insofar as bringing in talent we know that they are interested in, but more importantly, maybe, we want to show talent to our fans that they may not be familiar with. You know, people may not be as familiar with someone like O'Shea Edwards when we had only recently moved to the area. So while he was a very big name in Georgia and Tennessee, he had not been as exposed to the fans in this area, and we wanted to bring someone like O'Shea to their eyes. We bring someone like Trish Adora to their eyes, who is a DC native. In addition to bringing in the names like Solo Darling and Willow Nightingale and folks that they've seen on IWTV and on other independent shows, in addition to some of the local favorites like Bro Keller and Faye Jackson. Effie is someone who is one of the bigger independent wrestlers in the world right now, and we have cultivated a friendship with him, and he is our number one contender right now, and he holds the 51st state title that he successfully defended in the main event of Butch versus Gore. So we have really cultivated a talented and diverse roster, showing off the talents of wrestlers of all kinds of backgrounds, and that was very important to us, that we were not just going to have men wrestling with one woman on a show or one woman's match on a show. We really believed in having as diverse a roster and as diverse a card as humanly possible.
And to talk about representation, because I think one of the prime examples, and it's one of the prime examples that I've seen in a long time on a wrestling show, was Butch vs. Gore. Because that was very much an LGBTQ show, and there was a lot of talent that that I've never seen. And there are people like Erica Lay, who is in this area and is wrestling in this area, who is also getting a spot, as well as AC Mack, who is Action, which you guys have a relationship with. And there was, I think, like 40 people on that card that I never heard of, who are very talented wrestlers. So what was that like? Because I don't see promotions doing that right now in the wrestling world.
Well, one of the great things that we did for that show was I had Lolo and Billy Dixon, who's a member of our roster, really take the reins and put together the talent for that card, put together the booking for that card. Now, of course, I had to handle a lot of the things behind the scenes because I'm still the promoter of record and we still have to deal with the commission and so on. It was not a show that was in a vacuum. Things that happened at that show were going to involve things that were going to happen at later shows, which unfortunately is not happening right now. But Billy and Lolo, they came together and really worked hard to put together a really, really fantastic show. And I had no problem sort of playing a more supporting role in that because they really had a vision for this. And Billy knew so many talented wrestlers who deserve this kind of opportunity. And the reaction that the fans of DC gave them, and I can see it on my Twitter timeline, people that had never been in DC, had never been in front of these fans before, and now they've become some of their favorites, and they want to see more of their work when everything gets back to whatever normal is. And I think wonderful that we were able to give some of those folks, that door. Of course, there were more well-known people on that Mac, people on that card, as you noted, that fans didn't really know. And I'm so happy that the show was a success from top to bottom. I could not have been happier with how that came off. And it's whenever Primetime returns, and we will be back at some point when we can safely return, we're still going to use that show as a springboard for so many great plans that we have. Yeah.
And let's talk a little bit about that because COVID-19, as I stated at the beginning of this, really messed up the entire entertainment sector in the world, and in particular in wrestling. And we've seen this with WrestleMania, we're seeing it with Money in the Bank, on the big leagues, we're seeing it with several independent shows being canceled or postponed and moved around. So, and you guys were supposed to have a WrestleMania show, and then Primetime canceled the two shows that were supposed to happen, one I believe in May and one in June. So what was that like, making what I think was the right call given how everything turned out, and that the call probably would have been made for you anyway?
Well, that was the thing is we canceled the April shows. We had a show planned for Tampa at the beginning of April, and then we had a show planned for the end of April in DC. Those were really out of our control because the CDC had guidelines, and even if we wanted to, and we were not going to proceed, but the CDC guidelines made that decision for us. Then, as we get into May to June, I mean, May was going to be our anniversary show. June was going to be our William Howard Taft Hoss Fight tournament, and that was going to have an amazing card and have really fantastic. Bring that back, if not this year, then next year, with Mayor Bowser extending the public health emergency in D.C. Once again, it was something where the decision was made for us. However, even if we could have run those shows, I don't think it would have worked for the company. We will return, and we will return when everything is as safe as possible. We don't have the luxury of running in an empty arena, and with some of the DC regulations, I don't even know how that would work. We are trying to do things, keep our name out there. We are promoting things on IWTV, and we're looking for some other opportunities, and I would hope everyone would stay tuned for that. But we are always going to do its best and safest for the talent and for the fans. So we are, but only returning when things are as safe as possible and people want to come to wrestling. And there will be a time where everything is safe, and that first show back for us, whenever that might be, it could be August. We have not canceled our August show yet. We have not canceled our September or November shows yet, but we are ready to wait as long as we need to return safely. When we do return, there's a lot of things that have been laid out that we have to address. O'Shea and Effie have a title match. It has to happen. Effie was the winner of our first annual IGP TTCI tournament when he won the 51st state title. He is our number one contender. So O'Shea and Effie have to. How many tag teams can I have the Kings of the District defending their titles? I try to get as many as humanly possible, 15 or 17 of them at a time if I can. We had something that happened at Butch versus Gore between Angelus Lane and Faye Jackson. That has to be addressed. We had AC Mack on that show win the Pride of Primetime match, meaning he gets a title opportunity down the road, and basically calling out O'Shea Edwards. So we have a lot on the table right now. We have a lot of meat on the bone as far as great things to come, and when it's ready, I cannot wait to give our fans all of this and more.
And so I'm going to ask it anyway because I think you addressed part of this, but obviously there's a lot of stuff that has to get dealt with in prime time, and there's a lot of matches that need to happen, and people have to settle their beefs with each other because clearly Effie is going to be getting a shot at O'Shea, and AC Mack has somewhat of a chip on his shoulder for some odd reason. Now, I don't know why, what's going on with AC Mack and why he is, as I like to call it, AC Macking it, because he's one of the best talkers in wrestling right now, for sure. So, when things come back, what do you expect it to be like? Because people, as you stated, wanted wrestling, and they want this, and they want these things to be resolved in the way we, as wrestlers. You're a former wrestler and you were involved in that promotion. And as a fan, we want to see fights in the ring. So, how do you
Yeah,
perceive that it's
and
going
we
to all
want
come about?
resolution. Yeah, we want resolution. We don't want to read a book and then someone has cut out the last three chapters. We don't want to watch a 2.5 hour movie and at the 2 hour mark we leave. And we don't find out that Bruce Willis has been dead this whole time. We don't find out that Edward Norton and Brad Pitt are the same person. The biggest difficulty in that right now is not knowing when we're going to come back. If you were to tell me for sure 100% our next show will be September, which is currently scheduled to be our Rumble, and I could, make plans and book feuds, angles, talk to talent, take their ideas and what they want to do and put that together and put a cohesive plan together. However, we don't know if it'll be January when we have our next show. We just don't know. Because even if everything miraculously were able to go away, for example, the aliens that were in South America yesterday, if those aliens could wipe out COVID-19 and everything could be fantastic and wonderful, we still have a whole process we have to go through to get to our next show. So the whole thing is going to take some time. But you're right, we have a lot we're going to have to figure out as far as, do we ignore things that were supposed to happen? Well, we're going to have to ignore or gloss over some of those things because we're jumping from March to June or July or August or September or November or whatever. So you're right, there's a lot that has to happen, and there are a lot of plans that we're either going to have to condense or throw out the window. One of the great things, creative and talented roster who loves to come up with things that they're interested in doing. Lolo and I have a great relationship, and they have learned a lot about the wrestling side, and I have learned a lot about the communications and marketing and sponsorship world, and we have a great dynamic. And we have a great team that loves to throw out ideas and loves to come up with stuff. And we have Jason Heat, who is the promoter of Flying V, who is the voice of the Grapple region. He is the announcer for us and the announcer for Crab Wrestling, and he has a great mind.
You there still? I think I just lost you for a second. Are you still here? Because I think I just lost you for 1 second.
Bay and O'Shea Edwards in DC. I want Tasha Steeles and Faye Jackson. I want Angelus and Faye. So I want the Kings of the District to have 25 or 27 tag team challenges. I want all of that. So we're going to have to come together when the time is upon us and figure out how we're going to proceed. But I am completely confident that as a group, as a team, because it does take a village to run, there's no doubt. When that time comes, we're going to be ready and we're going to return, and I'm looking forward to that.
And to talk about that return date, because nobody knows when COVID-19 is going to be over, and then when it's contained, there's a whole process, as you just outlined. What are the steps that Primetime that you are taking and Lolo is taking, as well as your entire team, to make sure that it is a safe area as far as health is concerned, and even for both the fans and the talent? And what are you guys following as a team to make sure that people feel comfortable from a health side of it?
Absolutely. We're following the CDC is sending out. We're following what the mayor's office and the Department of Health is putting out there. Of course, we're following what everyone else is following it. We're seeing what other sports are doing, and we'll monitor what other independent wrestling companies are doing. But we have a great relationship with a lot of great independent companies. You mentioned Action Wrestling, and we've made a couple of trips down there and gotten to get to know those fans pretty well. We also have a great relationship with Battle Club and other promotions. So as a team, it's going to be one of those things where a lot of the promoters are going to be looking to see what other folks are doing and talking to other folks. And I've heard firsthand from other promoters and secondhand through wrestlers who have talked to other promoters about some of their thoughts on what they're going to do and what they're thinking. So we're going to follow whatever the federal government outlines, whatever the district government outlines, and we're going to look and see what other promotions are doing and take those best ideas, those best practices, and implement them. And that's what we've tried to do in general. Try to take the things that we thought were the best in independent wrestling and things that needed improvement in independent wrestling and put all of that together to create our own brand and our own dynamic. So, we are, like everyone, we are following what's going on in the world, and when it comes time for us to move forward, we'll take every step available. We will make sure the ring is cleaned, obviously, from our crew and the person that we get our ring from. We'll make sure everything is taken care of, everything is as sanitary as possible, and hopefully we will be at a point where there's either a vaccine, but that will take a long time, or we have gotten through this, and we are not going to return until we are completely confident that we can return safely. That's the biggest thing. Safety first is not just something that Tim Donst says. It is something that is important and something that we have to believe in and follow, because the safety of our fans and our talent is at stake. And it would be horrible to return prematurely, even if we could, and things leading to, they talk about the second wave of this pandemic. And so we are going to continue to monitor things and make the best decisions for our talent and our fans.
And while we wait for that return, obviously wrestlers are somewhat hurting as far as their livelihood, especially the ones who do this full-time as their main source of income, as well as promotions are hurting just because no shows are going on. So I'm very curious, what can fans do to support Primetime Pro Wrestling and continuously support Primetime Pro Wrestling? Because I know there's many venues on how that, and many avenues that can be done. And support is not just monetary, it's social media and a variety of other positions can be taken.
Absolutely. Continue to follow our tweets, retweet and like our tweets, get word of mouth on social media, whether that's Twitter or Facebook or Instagram, about us. Buy merchandise from your favorite independent wrestlers, because you're right, there are a lot of independent wrestlers who were doing this full-time who cannot. There are a lot of independent wrestlers who were not doing this full-time but have been furloughed or laid off from their jobs. And, if you follow them on social media, buy a t-shirt, buy a pin. Anthony Green and O'Shea and Matt Griffin, who is the president of Action, have done a great job of putting themselves out there and wanting folks to send them links to buy something. There was a story about Dolph Ziggler going and buying 15 and 20 shirts from independent wrestlers, which is fantastic. So supporting Primetime right now, the best thing to do is to support our talent, support our roster, support our sponsors. DC Brow is still open, selling beer, for carryout and delivery. DC9 is still open. So supporting our sponsors and the people who have supported us and supporting our talent is the best thing that folks can do right now.
And I'm going to add support Primetime. So what is Primetime's social media? Because it's great to support those talents and everybody should, but you got to love the promotion too, because without the promotion, they can't wrestle.
Very true. Well, I'll start at the top with Lolo's Twitter, which is Hellbender Low, all one word. My Twitter is the Mr. Gator. Mr. is all spelled out, all one word. The promotion's Twitter account is Primetime PW. Our Instagram is Primetime Pro Wrestling, and our Facebook is Primetime Pro Wrestling.
And I think we're going to leave it at there, because I think that sells everything. And I just want to make it crystal clear that support is not just monetary, because times are tough, everybody. If you don't have money and you got laid off from your job, I'm not asking you, and I don't think anybody else is asking you. And Anthony Green has been on this show along with several other wrestlers, and they all agree with what I'm about to say, is that if you can't support somebody economically because you're in an economic hard time, you can follow them on Twitter, like their Facebook page, comment on their tweet, make sure you tick up their algorithm on Twitter, like their tweets, follow back, mention something, retweet, share on Facebook, say hi to a wrestler, because it can make or break somebody when somebody's having a tough day. And I've said hi to several wrestlers who I know, and it helps. So there's no excuse for not supporting anybody anymore, because sport is just not economics. Following on social media is free. So go follow Gator, follow Lolo, and follow your favorite wrestlers if you're not already doing that, because now is the time when they need you the most. And also go follow Primetime Pro Wrestling, because without the promotion, as I just said, these wrestlers have nowhere to wrestle.
No, you're 100% true. There are a lot of great things that folks can do out there. Times are tough for a lot of people, so social media is the best way that we can practice social distancing while engaging in social activities. And it can get a little, wrestling Twitter can get a little,
Yeah,
uh,
yeah, yeah.
but it's also, it's also a wonderful place with a lot of wonderful people. So absolutely, talk to your favorite wrestler, reach out to them. If you see them retweeting something, feel free to put it on your timeline. Feel free to share it on Facebook, Instagram, and so on. We're all in this together.
And on that note, everybody go follow Gator. Go follow Gator. Get his Twitter all the way up to #1. Let's make it happen. Let's make this happen. And while you're at it, go follow Lolo too, because without Lolo and Gator, there'd be no Primetime Pro Wrestling. And if you're a DC resident, we've been waiting for this day for 20 years. 20 years, give or take. It's been a long time. So without both of them, we would not have this promotion. And this promotion is new. And I can't emphasize that enough, that when a promotion is new and there's some controversy going on that I want to avoid, and we're not going to get into it because I don't want to muddy the waters and shoot myself in the foot, because that's how it'll probably end up for me. But anybody who's been following anything on Twitter, in particular with Lolo, mentioned something about this, then you know what I'm talking about. But small promotions need you more than big ones at the moment.
Well, we cannot pay the governor of Florida to call us an essential business. So
there you go.
We are struggling, as bartenders are struggling, musicians are struggling, artists in general are struggling, people in the service industry are struggling. It's really difficult times. A lot of our close friends are not doing well, and so we are doing all we can to kind of lift them up, because we really do need to get through this, because maybe I'm overly optimistic, but I do think that there is going to be a day where we're back to whatever life is going to be like. People remember these kinds of things. People remember the aftermath of other enormous events in their lives, and we're certainly going to remember this, and it's going to stick with us forever, and we're going to be making jokes and trying our best to deal with this as best we can down the road. But please, everyone out there, stay safe. Please, exercise caution when you have to go out. Please take care of yourselves. Please take care of your family. This is no joke. I know everyone wants to get a haircut, and I know everyone wants to have that refill of iced tea and everything. But it's simply not worth exposing yourself to what's going on, and it's not worth possibly being a carrier and exposing innocent people to everything going on out there. So please use your brain, exercise caution. We all want to get through this as best as we can. We all want to get through this however we can. So thank you very much for having me on. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for being on. It was a pleasure to have you on, and I love primetime pro wrestling. I live in DC, so happy to have you on, and just want to get this out to as many people as possible because I want primetime to thrive and grow and become a big promotion in the next few years. And so, if I could help in any which way, which is this is starting, especially when times are tough, that's my goal with this. And so, thank you for being on, and I can't wait to be back. And hopefully, we're going to be back sooner because I'm very optimistic that I'm hoping that we're back August or September. Not predicting, but that's where I'm hoping we're at. So, thank you for being on.
Absolutely.